all of the developments regarding the search for Nancy Guthrie. It is week 3 of that search, and investigators are still trying to recover more evidence, focusing also on some DNA found inside of a glove. I want to turn our attention now to Caroline Elliott with Fox News. She is joining us live just outside of Nancy's home. Caroline, what do we know in regards to where this investigation stands today?
Yeah, Krill, good morning. There's a lot to break down here this morning. The sheriff did share those DNA results yesterday, and he said that they put those DNA samples into the database and they did not get a match. So the sheriff says the work here is still underway. We know now his team is looking at additional DNA evidence inside the home to see if they can try to figure out who this person is.
We haven't narrowed it down to anything other than we have certain pieces of
silence. That's the last thing Nancy Guthrie's pacemaker recorded before it went dark at 2:28 a.m. Silence is the last thing her doorbell camera captured before a man in a mask disabled it at 1:47 a.m. Silence is the last thing her family heard for the next 17 days. No proof of life. No photograph, no recording, no voice. And silence is what every press conference, every FBI update, and every news anchor is giving you when you ask the one question that actually matters. Is Nancy Guthrie still alive? Tonight, I'm breaking that silence. Before we go any further, if this kind of deep dive evidence-based investigation is the content you've been looking for, take 1 second right now and hit subscribe. Because this story is about to take a turn that no one else is covering like this. And share this with someone who needs to see it. Because what happened to Nancy Guthrie could happen to anyone's mother. Before I show you the timeline, I need you to know who Nancy Guthrie is, not the headline. Not the case number, the woman. Nancy Guthrie is 84 years old. She is a mother of 3, Savannah, Annie, and Cameron. She has lived in the Tucson area for more than 5 decades, raising her children alone after her husband Charles died at the age of 49. She lives independently in a quiet, secluded home in the Catalina foothills, a peaceful desert community just outside Tucson. Her daughter Savannah described her as a kind, faithful, loyal, fiercely loving woman of goodness and light. She said her mother is funny, spunky, and clever. A woman whose grandchildren adore her and crowd around her and cover her with kisses. The sheriff himself said Nancy is of great sound mind. That this is not a dementia-related case. He called her sharp as a tack. She attended church faithfully every single week. It was her absence from a Sunday virtual church service on February 1st that made someone call her family. That call is the reason we know she's gone. But here is what you need to understand about Nancy Guthrie's body. She has a pacemaker. A device implanted under her skin to regulate her heartbeat. That pacemaker was connected to a monitoring app on her phone through Bluetooth. It tracked her heart. It kept a record that she was alive. Her daughter, Savannah, said publicly that her mother's health and heart are fragile, that she lives in constant pain, that she is without any medicine. She needs it to survive. She needs it not to suffer. The sheriff confirmed that Nancy requires daily medication and that without it, it could be fatal. He relayed from the family that Nancy couldn't walk 50 yards by herself. Remember these details, every single one, because everything I'm about to show you depends on understanding how fragile Nancy Guthrie's body is and what happens when the systems keeping her alive are taken away. On Saturday, January 31st, Nancy Guthrie took an Uber to her daughter Annie's home around 5:32 p.m. The family had dinner together. Afterward, Annie's husband, Tommaso Cioni, drove Nancy home. Her garage door opened at 9:48 p.m. and closed at 9:50 p.m. Police say her son-in-law waited until Nancy was inside before driving off. The sheriff said, "It is at that time we assume that Nancy's home and probably going to bed. This is the last confirmed moment anyone who loves Nancy Guthrie saw her alive. Then, roughly 4 hours of silence. No alerts, no disturbances, no calls, no triggers from any device in her home. Nancy is alone, in a house at the edge of the desert, and somewhere in that darkness, someone was already moving toward her. At 1:47 a.m., Nancy's Nest doorbell camera disconnects. At the time, investigators said no footage was available because Nancy didn't have an active subscription to the camera service, but the FBI kept working. And what they pulled from the system changed everything. Using what the agency described as residual data located in back-end systems, the FBI recovered footage from that camera. And what it shows is this: a man in a mask approaching Nancy Guthrie's front door. He is armed. A holstered pistol visible on his body. He is wearing black gloves. He raises a gloved hand toward the camera. In a separate clip, he holds a flashlight in his teeth while covering the camera lens with vegetation. At 1:47 in the morning, a man was standing at Nancy Guthrie's front door with a gun, gloves, and a plan. And the first thing he did, before anything else, was make sure no one could see what came next. 25 minutes later, at 2:12 a.m., a secondary camera in the home detects movement that the system initially classified as a person. Though the sheriff later clarified, it could also have been an animal. But here is the detail that matters. No footage exists either way. Nancy did not have an active paid subscription to the camera's cloud recording service. The system flagged activity at her home at 2:12 in the morning and captured nothing. The technology detected something. We will never know what. At 2:28 a.m., Nancy Guthrie's pacemaker disconnects from the monitoring app on her phone, the device that tracks Nancy Guthrie's heart. The organ keeping this 84-year-old woman alive goes dark. It has never reconnected. Between 1:47 a.m., when the doorbell camera was disabled, and 2:28 a.m., when the pacemaker disconnected, exactly 41 minutes passed. Whatever happened to Nancy Guthrie happened inside this window, and I need you to think about what 41 minutes contains. The suspect disabled the camera at 1:47. At some point after that, he entered the home. We know this because DNA from an unknown individual, someone who is not Nancy Guthrie and not anyone in close contact with her, was found on her property. At 2:12, a secondary camera detected movement. Blood matching Nancy's DNA was found on her front porch and along the pathway toward her driveway. Never publicly explained by law, it's an enforcement. And by 2:28, the pacemaker was silent. In 41 minutes, a person can drive 40 miles. They can cross a county line, they can reach a highway, or they can do what they came to do and leave the way they came. 41 minutes is both an eternity and nothing at all. Now, the critical question. What causes a pacemaker to disconnect from its monitoring app? There are a limited number of possibilities. The first, the phone was destroyed or disabled, severing the Bluetooth connection between the pacemaker and the app. Nancy's phone was later found still inside the home. So, if the phone was functional, why did the connection break? The second, Nancy was physically moved beyond Bluetooth range of her phone. A digital forensics examiner explained that pacemakers use the same near-field Bluetooth technology as AirPods. If you walk far enough away, the connection drops. This would mean Nancy was removed from her home before 2:28 a.m. The third, the pacemaker itself was damaged or interfered with. And the fourth, the possibility that nobody on television will say out loud, the pacemaker stopped detecting a cardiac rhythm to monitor. I'm not going to tell you which of these I believe, but I want you to notice the sequence. The camera went dark first, Then movement was detected. Then the pacemaker went silent. That's not a collection of random events. That's a progression. And in criminal investigations, progressions tell stories that press conferences don't. Now I need to talk about something that every outlet covering this case is dancing around. Every interview, every press conference, every update. They talk about hope. They talk about new leads. They talk about technology and tips and reward money. But nobody, not the sheriff, not the FBI, not a single analyst on cable television, is addressing the medical reality of what happens when an 84-year-old woman with a pacemaker, limited mobility, and a body that lives in constant pain goes 17 days without her medication. So I'm going to address it, because someone has to. The sheriff himself said, on the record at a press conference, that without Nancy's daily medication, it could be fatal. Her daughter Savannah said, in a video seen by millions, she lives in constant pain. She is without any medicine. She needs it to survive. She needs it not to suffer. Nancy Guthrie cannot walk 50 yards without assistance. She has now been without her medication for over 17 days. And in all of those days, across all of those press conferences and all of those interviews and all of those tips, there has been zero proof of life. No photograph, no audio recording, no video, no verified communication from Nancy or from whoever took her. Multiple ransom demands were sent to media outlets in the days after she disappeared. At least one demanded millions of dollars in Bitcoin and set 2 deadlines. Both deadlines passed. Nothing happened. No one delivered proof that Nancy was alive when those demands were written. The family responded publicly. Savannah Guthrie, flanked by her siblings on Instagram, looked directly into a camera and said, "This is very valuable to us, and we will pay." A family on national television, begging to pay a ransom. And the response? Silence.
We received your message, and we understand. We beg you now to return our mother to us so that we can celebrate with her. This is the only way we will have peace. This is very valuable to us, and we will pay.
No photograph, no recording, no proof. The FBI itself confirmed in an official statement that the agency is not aware of any continued communication between the Guthrie family and suspected kidnappers. Multiple ransom demands, a family offering everything they have, a $100,000 FBI reward, and not a single person on this earth has produced one piece of evidence that Nancy Guthrie has taken a breath since 2:28 a.m. on February 1st. Now, need you to understand what that means in the context of how kidnappings actually work. In kidnapping cases where the victim is alive and the motive is ransom, proof of life is standard. It's not optional. It's not a courtesy. It's the tool. It's how kidnappers prove they have leverage. It's how they force families to pay. You don't demand millions of dollars and then offer nothing in return because the family has no reason to believe you have what you're selling. The absence of proof of life in a ransom scenario doesn't signal caution. In behavioral analysis, it typically means one of 2 things. Either there was never a real kidnapping for ransom in the first place, or the kidnapper cannot provide proof of life because there is no life to prove. In the vast majority of ransom kidnappings where the victim was recovered alive, proof of life was provided within the first 72 hours. It is a negotiation tool. It is standard practice. Nancy Guthrie has been missing for over 400 hours, and not one person who claims to have her has proven it. Now, I know that right now. Some of you are watching from cities and towns all over the world. And wherever you are, drop your location in the comments below. Because what I'm about to show you next is something that affects every family in every city with an aging parent living alone. And I need you here for this part. There is a piece of technology inside Nancy Guthrie's body that is designed to keep her alive. and to tell the world that she is alive. Her pacemaker emits a Bluetooth signal approximately every 2 to 3 minutes. That signal can be detected, identified, and traced. Law enforcement knows this, and they have been looking for it. A device known as a signal sniffer was mounted on the skid of a Pima County Sheriff's Department helicopter. An FBI source confirmed it is sophisticated FBI technology. The helicopter was flown low and slow over the Tucson area in systematic grid patterns, searching for that signal. Cybersecurity expert Morgan Wright, the CEO of the National Center for Open and Unsolved Cases, and Dave Kennedy, a former NSA hacker, developed an upgraded version of the device designed to be mounted on drones. Kennedy tested it at his own home using off-the-shelf components and achieved a detection range of roughly 800 feet. Wright said the optimized version could reach up to 1,000 feet, and that an entire fleet of drones could be programmed with AI to cover a massive search grid. Separately, Parsons Corporation, a defense and technology firm, deployed its Blue Fly units to Arizona on February 3rd at the request of the Pima County Sheriff's Department. Blue Fly is a Bluetooth and Wi-Fi sensor designed for search and rescue in challenging environments. According to Parsons' own statement, the technology was used during a helicopter search over the Guthrie neighborhood on February 3rd. And was subsequently deployed on additional helicopter operations, ground vehicles, and on foot. The FBI has the drone prototype. Wright said they could begin using it within days. That was days ago. They have been searching for this signal for over 2 weeks. Helicopters, drones, ground vehicles, on foot. Military-grade Bluetooth detection combined with private sector sensor arrays designed to locate exactly the kind of device that is inside Nancy Guthrie's chest. Multiple search operations across the Tucson area and beyond. And, as of today, day 17, they have not yet detected Nancy Guthrie's pacemaker. Now, experts have noted that the pacemaker's standard Bluetooth range is extremely limited, 10 to 15 feet without amplification, meaning searchers would need to be in close proximity. But with signal amplifiers and high-gain antennas, that range extends to several hundred feet. They have been flying over neighborhoods. They have been driving the streets. They have been walking the desert terrain on foot. They have not found the signal. There are only a few explanations for that. She has been moved far beyond the search radius, possibly out of the state or further. The pacemaker has been physically removed or destroyed, or the pacemaker is no longer functioning, because it no longer needs to. I am not going to accuse law enforcement of anything. The men and women working this case are doing everything they can with what they have. I believe that. But I'm going to point out what they are saying, and more importantly, what they are not saying. And I'm going to let you decide what the silence means. The sheriff said there would be no press briefings unless there is a significant development. Days have passed without one. The last official press conference was over a week ago. The sheriff told one outlet he believes this is a kidnapping. But a federal law enforcement source told NBC News that investigators have a myriad of theories and are not narrowing their options to any specific one. Those two statements do not say the same thing. The family, all siblings and all spouses, has been cleared as suspects. The sheriff called them victims and said suggesting otherwise is not only wrong, it is cruel. But no new suspect. Direction has been publicly offered. The glove DNA was run through CODIS, the FBI's national database of roughly 22 million profiles. No match. The primary forensic lead is a dead end for now. Investigators are turning to commercial genealogy databases, but the nation's leading genetic genealogist, CeCe Moore, told CNN that results could take anywhere from 20 minutes to over 7.5 years. No suspect vehicle has been identified. No suspect has been named. No person of interest has been named. Over 400 investigators are working the case. Between 40,000 and 50,000 tips and leads have flooded in. And the public knows the same suspect description today that they knew on day 10. A male, 5'9" to 5'10", average build, carrying a black 25-liter Ozark Trail hiker pack backpack from Walmart. When I look at this investigation, I don't see a case that is closing in on answers. I see a case that is running out of doors to open. And the one detail that matters more than the DNA, more than the backpack, more than the gloves, more than every single tip that has come in, is that nobody on this earth can prove Nancy Guthrie is alive. Not the person who took her, not law enforcement, not her family, nobody. The camera went dark at 1:47. Movement was detected at 2:12. The pacemaker went silent at 2:28. And in the 17 days since, across multiple ransom demands, a $100,000 FBI reward, a family begging on national television, helicopter searches, drone technology, defense-grade Bluetooth sensors, and tens of thousands of tips, not one piece of technology, not one human being, not one communication has produced a single sign of life. That is not a gap in the evidence. That is the evidence. If you're still here, and I know you are, drop the words, "I'm still here" in the comments. Because this next part is where everything lands. And I need to know who made it this far. Let's see who's still watching. I started this video by telling you I wouldn't tell you what happened to Nancy Guthrie, and I meant it. I showed you the timeline. The 4 hours of silence, the camera disabled at 1:47, the movement at 2:12, the pacemaker going dark at 2:28. I showed you the 41 minutes where everything happened, and the blood on the front porch that nobody has explained. I showed you the medical reality. An 84-year-old woman who lives in constant pain, who cannot walk 50 yards, who needs daily medication that her own sheriff said could be fatal to go without. 17 days without that medication. I showed you what the technology searched for and what it has not yet found. Helicopters with signal sniffers, defense-grade Bluetooth sensors on the ground, in vehicles and in the air. A pacemaker that emits a signal every 2 to 3 minutes, and after 2 weeks of searching, nothing. I showed you multiple ransom demands and a family willing to pay. And not a single piece of proof that Nancy Guthrie is alive. I'm not a detective. I'm not a medical professional. I'm someone who looks at evidence and asks questions that I believe deserve answers. And the question I cannot stop asking is this. If Nancy Guthrie is alive, why can't anyone prove it? I hope I'm wrong. I genuinely hope the next video I make about this case is the one where I tell you they found her and brought her home. Where I sit right here and say, I was wrong about everything and I have never been happier to be wrong in my life. But hope is not evidence. And the evidence in this case is telling a story that nobody in front of a camera seems willing to tell. But you heard it anyway. Before you go, I mean this. This channel exists because of you. Every video like this one, the research, the fact-checking, the hours it takes to build a timeline this precise. It happens because you show up. If you want to go deeper, if you want access to early investigations, extended breakdowns, and the cases I'm working on before they go live, join our YouTube membership. It's the best way to support this work and make sure these stories keep getting told the way they deserve to be told. Link is below. The timeline, the pacemaker, the medication, the 41 minutes, the signal search, 17 days with zero proof of life. I didn't tell you what to think, but I need to know. What do you believe happened at 2:28 a.m.? Drop your theory below. Thank you for being here. I'll see you in the next one.